Yes, I'm John Cunnan, and I have an identical twin brother, so there's really kind of been two of us, and it's been just really wonderful having a twin brother to relate to, and twins kind of running the family. I had twin daughters too, so it's definitely some twin energy. Probably Pasadena, huh?
I guess it begins with you and I in the crib together, huh?
Yeah, that's
Even
for
earlier
sure.
than that.
In the womb together.
Your first womb mate.
Yeah, roommate, yes. I kicked him out.
So you're born in Pasadena?
Born in actually at the Glendale Hospital.
Near Pasadena.
Yeah, right near.
Living in Pasadena. He was living in Pasadena, and mother went into labor, and he put her in the back seat of a Cadillac limousine, which was Taylor's car, which he drove because he was a chauffeur, and whisked us off to the hospital. And one of us was born on the back seat of the limo, and mother was holding.
And we're not sure which one, if it was John or Robert.
That's what they say, but that's an interesting story too, because all of our lives, mother and father always said John was the firstborn, and we named the firstborn John. But the birth certificate says that Robert was born first. And I really think they got us mixed up. And I think he's John and I'm Robert. I really do.
Possibility. I never entertained the idea until I saw the birth certificate. Was holding the firstborn, yeah. When they got to the hospital, and yeah, they could have easily got us mixed up, and probably did, but that's the way those emergency births go.
Especially with twins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those twin swaps.
Yeah. Started thinking, there's something fishy going on here.
There is something fishy going on here, but looking at the baby pictures, I think the firstborn, there's a little, the firstborn is a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger looking. It's just like with your and Rachel's pictures. You can tell it's kind of obvious who's the firstborn. And looking at your pictures and then looking at our pictures, I'm pretty convinced that he was firstborn. I really am. And he's been, kind of the alpha guy, in our journey that we've taken together most of our adult life. I've been working for him. He's the boss.
Well, I've got a sculpture of the twins from Hal Freeman. But yeah, the way it is with twins, one is looking at the horizon, and the other is looking at the sky. It's obvious that he's been looking at the sky.
I certainly have been, studying the cosmos. And my father was a chauffeur, and he also served as a butler for a wealthy family in Pasadena, the Taylors. on San Rafael Avenue. The mansion is still there.
J. Hartley Taylor, who lived just down the street from Susan Wilson, as a matter of fact.
Right on the same street. But I think Taylor was in the milling business.
He was, and a friend of Henry J. Kaiser. And when the war broke out, Dad, because he had 3 children, could avoid the draft if he got into defense work. And that's when he went to work for Henry J. Kaiser.
Yeah, Kaiser Steel in Fontana.
And Taylor got him that job. And then he moved out and bought a 7-acre chicken farm out in Fontana, yeah. And went to work for Kaiser Steel. And set up a chicken and a turkey farm.
He first moved, we were only 2 years old. 1942. A lot of work.
Definitely, a lot of work, but yeah, a lot of fun too,
Yeah, we had a lot of fun playing in the old chicken coops, Not only did you have a chicken house, but you had all of these little coops where if you needed to separate some chickens from the flock because they were, needed some recuperation, you'd put them in these little hutches, and there always seemed to be little hutches around that we had a lot of fun playing in. And when the chicken business, it got harder and harder to compete. Egg prices were seemed to be going down rather than gaining, and moving more toward the industrial poultry farms taking over and putting the small farmers out of business. Dad moved several times, improving each time, getting a little bigger place, a little bit more facility. And the last move when he was still in the chicken business was out in Riverside County to a little town called Nuevo in this little valley. And we were in the 6th grade when we made that move. And that was probably the nicest operation that he had. And of course, in a small flock like that, we vaccinated the chickens for flu and for influenza all the time. And Robert and I got pretty good at catching chickens on the run. We had a wire hook and we'd grab them by the legs.
And you guys did the immunization?
Dad would do we'd bring the chickens
to him. Yeah, we were his secret weapon. There was 2 of us. We could catch chickens and take them one at a time. We'd open up their wing like that and take it to him, and he'd prick them, and
and
go get another one.
And sometimes he'd clip the wing feathers and debeak them at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it was the debeaking part of it that was hard for me to handle. You work all day in the hot sun, as smelling this smell of burning flesh really is. And I passed out twice. I just I don't know whether it was heat stroke or smelling that burning flesh smell all day. But I felt like medicine is not the career for me. I can't handle the blood. And when I was in college, I was very fascinated. Biology was what I majored in until my junior year. And then I realized that everybody that was still a biology major was going into medicine. But finally, in my junior year, I got an opportunity to take this microbiology because I was fascinated by the microscopic world and loved to go collect pond water and just look at all of the parameciums and the amoebas and the stentors and
The Vorticelli.
yeah, the vorticellis and just what a beautiful rhythmic thing that was happening, on a microscopic level. And when I got over to Korea, I actually bought a really nice Olympus microscope with an attachment that I could take photographs.
Partly because they were automating the system and putting the birds in cages. He couldn't make it, selling eggs anymore. So he decided that he was going to cook the chickens and sell the cooked chickens.
Yeah, he had a lot of friends in the poultry business that he wanted to help them, and he saw that as a way to keep a lot of his friends still in the poultry business, but instead of growing eggs, they could grow meat birds, fryers.
and then cook them. That was more value added. Uh, in income yeah, they were trying to maximize.
How did they cook? How did you cook the chicken?
Rotisserie.
Yeah, Dad had the first rotisserie machines. He had them custom made. They were not available on the market, and he had them custom made. And it wasn't like it is now, where every supermarket has a rotisserie machine and you can go in and buy a chicken. He was the only one in town that had these special spit broiled chickens that were really the healthiest way because all the fat dripped down.
And then he served them like family style.
Yeah, family style. Yeah,
So
to eat there or to take out too.
bucket of chicken and
Yeah, right.
corn on the cob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
baked potato.
Yeah, and with Zellerback Paper Company pioneered that bucket of chicken that Colonel Sanders uses today, but he was the one that came up with the salesman from Zellerback with that bucket of chicken.
Yeah.
Did you work at the restaurant?
Yeah, both of us.
Oh
did,
yeah. Yeah,
for
we
years.
definitely we put our time in the restaurant business. But when we got older, we knew, the egg business wasn't an option, and we didn't want to do the restaurant business either.
No, to get in between people and their stomachs was not always a good place to be.
What high school did you graduate from?
Paris.
Paris High School.
Paris
What year
Union
was
High
it?
School in 1958. Yeah.
Paris High School. Both play basketball?
No.
Did you play water polo?
I played
John
water
did.
polo in junior college, but we were World War II babies, and the whole focus of war. I don't know about Robert, but I really felt at some point in my life I was going to have to be a soldier. And they had, at the high school we went to, they had a junior ROTC called the California Cadet Corps, and we got involved in that. And instead of playing basketball, we were out on the rifle range shooting guns and taking field trips to uh, Camp Pendleton, to the Marine Corps training camp down there, and preparing for future in the military, really, because it seemed inevitable that at some point we were going to have to. They still had an active draft, and
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to know all of those skills, which I learned, and when I did get in the military, it was quite natural for me, polishing, shining my boots and polishing my brass, and I had a lot of uh, guys I served with say, slow down, John. You're looking too good out there. You're making the rest of us look bad." But we were very much kind of swept up by the back to the land, because we'd come very close to winding up in Vietnam. I was in the Eighth Army, which is the army that was fighting the war in Vietnam. But luckily, I was in Korea. But even Korea was pretty close to the action. But I was a short timer. I would have had to re-enlist if I wanted to get into any of that kind of action, and there's no way I was going to re-enlist. But when I was getting out of the Army in '65, when they were really starting to send a lot of troops, Robert got drafted because he had graduated from State College and
Cal State Los Angeles
had a degree
in industrial arts.
And when he got to Fort Knox, Kentucky, which was an armored vehicle training center, he company commander said, "You, Mr. Cunnan, there with the degree, you come and manage our office for us." So
yeah, they had lost their company clerk, and they interviewed people, and they were mainly interested in somebody that knew how to type. But I had worked part-time for a weekly newspaper, running a Justo Writer, which was a keyboard typesetting machine, and I could type pretty good and accurately. And so, yeah, I got the job, the company clerk job, which was Radar O'Reilly's
Goodness, right?
job from
So
MASH, yeah.
you narrowly
And spent the whole time in a training company at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Yeah.
rather than going to war.
but he was the one that was writing the orders for all of these trainees that were coming out of armored tank and personnel carrier training at Fort Knox.
Yeah, and they all went to Vietnam.
Yeah, they were all going to Vietnam.
I looked around, and I thought I was the only white guy on the plane because everybody else looked black. But it turned out there were 7 white guys on the plane, out of maybe 200 people on the aircraft. And the black guys were the guys who rioted in Watts. burned the town down, and they were given the choice of either going into the military or going to jail. And these were the guys who, chose the military over jail. So yeah, I went to basic training with them. And of course, when we got to Fort Polk, Louisiana, they split us all up and put all the black guys in their own uh, platoon, and then segregated us out. Yeah. Uh, and that was in 1965. And when I got off the bus in Shreveport, Louisiana, to go back to California for a break before I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana, when I stepped off the bus, I went into the waiting room there, and everybody was black. And I said, "Where in the heck am I?" And this little shoe shine boy came running up with his shoebox. I said, "Where am I?" And he said, "You in the black section, mister. The white folk are through that door right there." Yeah. So yeah, it was still segregated.
Did you go to college together?
Yeah, for a while, both at L.A. State. Yeah, we did. And L.A. State was in East L.A. So yeah.
We went to Riverside City College together. We went to LA State together, and we both went to Long Beach. But I think you were at Long Beach at a different time than I was.
Oh yeah,
because I didn't go to Long Beach until after I got out of the Army and decided to finish my my college career and major in industrial arts. Change from the biology major to the industrial arts major, like what Robert had done.
John was in the photography because John had worked for some photographers, for printing pictures.
Right, yeah. Plus, I worked for the Riverside Press Democrat and operated their dark room. So when when their journalists would come in with a canister of film, they'd hand it to me, and I'd take it in the dark room and process it, and then print up a proof and give it to the editor so he could look at those and pick the ones that he wanted, and then we could print those up for the newspaper. But I'd had that experience, and so John F. Kennedy was assassinated when I was in boot camp, and they didn't send me to school or anything because I had this previous experience. They sent me straight away to Washington, D.C., and I was working in a little, it was just a small photo laboratory at Fort Myer, Virginia, which was Robert E. Lee's home, and that had been turned into the National Cemetery. All very historic, and it was just the whole journey for me coming from California was very fascinating.
That was, just after, Lyndon Johnson became president, and he passed the Civil Rights Act of 1965 and segregated or desegregated the whole system.
In 65, I was just getting home from Korea. We had gone through a flood. And but I was really glad to get home. And then when I got home, we decided to go to this protest, anti-war protest at the, in L.A. Lyndon Johnson was there, and it turned out to be a disaster. We're lucky we didn't get clubbed because we weren't that far back, from the front line, and it was the police that actually rioted and forced all those people down in onto the freeway. It was a mess. Luckily, we snuck out of there just in the nick of time. But we were close enough to the front where it was very visible. The people in the front line were really taking a beating with those nightsticks. They were just beating them back, and there was no place to go. You're sandwiched in there with a whole slowly moving crowd behind you, and a whole crowd of police armed with nightsticks coming at you. Man, it was scary. It was really scary. But, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay was there, egging us on, Hell no, you won't go. Hell no, we won't go.
Yeah, he was in Kentucky, in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's where his gym was, in Louisville. So yeah, he had a real heavy influence in the black community there too.
But yeah, he was a conscientious objector who didn't, refuse to go. I think they stripped his title away from him as the champion of the world. It was another whole story. But it was, it was interesting that he was there at the protest. But it certainly educated us to the dangers in protesting at these anti-Vietnam war protests.
Yeah.
It was just another reason to get out of the city and to a place where life made more sense.
To the Glendale High School, and then your whole childhood growing up together, working together side by side, sticking pretty close through college and military experience, and then right here, Brown Valley. It's such a beautiful
40 years later. Yeah.
It is really a beautiful brotherhood that we have had and worked together, on most every project.